Okay, yeah. So I was telling you about a post on X.com by Jonathan Haidt about how there's, another study and more evidence about how smartphones are making us dumber. And yeah, and it reminded me of this quote from Rousseau, and I posted it on X. So this is back in the 1700s. He died before the 19th century. But the more ingenious are our tools, the cruder and more maladroit our organs become. By dint of gathering machines around us, we no longer find any in ourselves. So, yeah, I was telling you just about how this part in the book, which is about education, where he like raises this imaginary pupil, who's like supposed to be like a regular boy, not like a genius or anything. And in this part of the book, he has started to get him to kind of run these races by giving him these little cakes as rewards at the end, and he brings other children into it. And this imaginary pupil, Emile, starts to see that there's different lengths paths, and of course he'd want to take the shorter one to be able to win the race, but there's no time to measure it out in paces or anything. So Rousseau is trying to get Emile to start to measure the length of the races with his senses, with his eyes. And he has a larger point related to the quote that I just read about, yeah, how he wants human beings to, yeah, to live with their senses and to develop confidence and through competence and experience in them. And I think he sees this modern development, this modern scientific kind of taking over of society, as where we are using our senses less and less, and we're depending on machines and everything. And right above this quote that I just read, he says he talks about instruments. All the instruments invented to guide us in our experiments and to take the place of accuracy of the senses cause the senses to be neglected. The graphometer frees us from having to estimate the size of angles. The eye, which used to measure distances with perception, relies on the chain which measures them for it. The balance frees me from judging by hand. The weight I know by means of the balance. And for anyone who happens to be interested, that's on page 176 at the bottom of the Alan Bloom translation. But yeah, uh, what do you think? Smartphones making us dumber? Do tools make us dumber?
Well, like, yeah, I kind of could see what the quotes are saying because, like, these smartphones and like modern technology, they kind of take away what it means to be like a full person or a full human being. And a lot of us because, like, like a full human being is kind of in touch with the natural self, and the
Yeah.
natural self is kind of like the rest of the animals out in nature. Like we, use our senses, but we also have the gift of also having like our minds too. So
Yeah,
that's what
reflection.
makes us like a full human.
Mm.
But then like this technology, kind of yeah, like it's saying like it takes away the use of our senses and our minds and puts us in a place where we don't even we aren't even able to like trust. We don't trust our senses anymore, and we don't know how to use them when we're without those contraptions.
Yeah.
I've kind of thought about it like I rely a lot on Google GPS to
Yeah.
the point where if my phone were to like give out or something, I'm terrible with direction and don't trust myself to get wherever I need to go. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, 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 you
Um,
didn't.
But it wasn't long ago though when humans were able to like look at maps or look at the stars and know where they needed to go. So it's a huge downfall. We think about what our ancestors were known to be able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think you'd be willing to try to go without the GPS and start to use your mind again?
Yeah, like I've done it in small ways. So um when I need to reroute, I kind of use common sense sometimes
Good,
because I know if I keep going left or whatever, I'll go back, kind of go in the same general direction. So
good. And yeah,
yeah,
you
I've
can
done it
eventually
sometimes.
like start to
Yeah.
learn the area better that way.
Yeah.
True.
So
I mean, I think one thing, and Rousseau talks about this, that we use technology so we don't have so we can do things most efficiently, which partially means not making mistakes, but mistakes are an essential part of learning anything, aren't they? I think they are, right?
yeah.
Is there anything that mistakes aren't essential? Because when you make a mistake, like you remember that much more than like when things went smoothly, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And if they, yeah, yeah, I think that's one thing. Yeah. Like with my students, I tried to, yeah, get this idea in there and I tried to, yeah, I don't want them to have the idea like the point was to be perfect, like on a paper or something, on an essay. The point is to learn how to do better and to something about learning the material better, balanced with self-expression, balanced with like work-life balance, in that greater context, balanced with moral considerations, like. And that brings it back to technology and AI and everything, the students using that to cheat and all that. But yeah, that's kind of yeah, to be a whole and good person, to be a person who experiences and exemplifies the good and the beautiful and the true, and things in balance, it's not all about some kind of uber efficiency all the time, you know, getting the most out of life without ever
Yeah.
even living life.
Yeah. It seems like this high efficiency kind of often means like not thinking or using our senses anymore, which is, and
Yeah.
it's kind of really hard to kind of think of something that can be highly efficient, but without kind of dulling our use of senses or mind at the same time.
Yeah. What exactly are you thinking? I agree with that in general.
Um, well, yeah, just looking again, just generally just technology again, because it's highly efficient, but a
Mm.
lot of that kind of involves kind of removing the person from it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's I don't know if it's even possible to kind of reconcile those two things, like efficiency and still kind of involving the person, like with thoughts and senses at the same time.
Yeah. I tend to think efficiency is mostly, I mean, you do want to be effective in life, right? And you don't necessarily, and you don't want to have to learn to reinvent the wheel every time you do something. It is good to learn some procedures and everything, in every aspect of life. What am I trying to say? I mean, yeah, again, this is from Rousseau. There's some quote that I can't quote, but he talks about how human beings like they life is short and human beings make it so because we are always shuttling from or we're always going from one goal to the next and we're never like just enjoying the whole process. And yeah, one wants to not waste time, but one and to get things done that one needs to, but yeah, to not it's like the way you do it is important to not rush through it, and so to where you're not mindful of what is happening when you're doing it. How do you find that balance or something? Do you deliberately, you mentioned using GPS a little bit less. Do you try to, in conversations with like clients or with people, like do you try to not be too much of a problem solver or something like that sometimes, you know?
Well, it's like at my job, it's very hard because you're kind of seen as a problem solver.
Well, I just
But
mean,
yeah,
there's a way to try to address things to where you're just trying to efficiently solve a problem or something rather than sort of like be present with the other person at the same time to where you're kind of solving, you're not just solving a problem, having a hard time articulating this, but just, yeah, to where you're like being present with the other person too. And
yeah. Um, well, I kind of try to kind of remember to maybe just kind of bring kind of warmth back into your interactions, where
mm,
it's not purely clinical or trying to solve problems, like you said. So,
mm,
um, I just use it with basic things like just asking the person how they're doing, how they're
mm,
feeling,
mm,
just what things they're looking forward to in their
mm,
day or later. Um,
mm,
so I think that kind of helps with that a little
mm,
bit.
mm,
Um, and maybe just trying to find some kind of joy or warmth, like I said,
mm.
in those kinds of things.
Do you feel like your mental health is helped by that?
Yeah, I think so too, because it kind of I think it kind of humanizes like interactions more.
Mm,
Um, and it kind of it helps like I think develop like relationships more. Um,
yeah.
and
And that helps your
and
mental health.
actually looking forward to like speaking with the person. Or sometimes you'll find that the person responds well a lot of the time and they'll do nice things for you or say nice things and share things
Mm,
that aren't just focused on solving problems or
mm,
like more clinical type stuff.
mm. Yeah, this reminds me of well-being therapy, which we've talked about. Uh, one component of which is just expressing gratitude briefly but genuinely with eye contact and with emotion and everything, like just at a store or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and how just a brief kind of, but genuine and positive emotion kind of thing can, especially over time, repeatedly, can just improve your whole
Yeah.
outlook of life, like help take you from being depressed to being like relatively happy. By the way, do you try those well-being therapy things anymore? So I sometimes do, but I tend not to. But just to review, like, yeah, expressing genuine gratitude and then recording it in your journal if you feel a connection. What's the other thing? Like also writing down in the journal about 3 times a day, just a very quick like gratitude statement, like somebody you feel grateful for, and being repetitive if you can't think of anything else. Yes, my coworker Jody was helpful today. You may have that 18 times, but thinking of new things if you can. And there was one other component. I forget what it was, but do you remember,
Um,
or do you ever
I think it
practice
was
the well-being
I
therapy? That's easy to look up for people anyway.
yeah, like I haven't really written down stuff for a while, but I think I have had moments where like I try to remember gratitude, like you said, with like simple things with coworkers,
Mm,
and the things I appreciate that they do.
mm,
They're like, so
mm.
yeah, well, like I haven't like actively been doing those exercises in particular. I think like I'm kind of mentally kind of finding those opportunities sometimes.
Mm. Have you felt a difference in your outlook from these types of things?
Oh yeah, like I feel better about my day, so yeah,
Yeah,
it
me
does
too.
help
It
and
really
more
does make a
optimistic.
difference. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that outlook dimension of your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, and like less focused on like the things I don't like about my life. So it
Yeah,
kind of makes
yeah,
them seem smaller and not so
yeah,
significant anymore.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was starting to get negative today, and then, partially through meditation, I think, just kind of saw it as just thoughts and like, okay, what is what is happening right now? uh, those negative thoughts and all the ramifications and everything. And then, but what is happening right now? Well, uh, I can decide to do one of a few different things. Like I can continue on this path. I can try to go to another mental path. And then it's just like, well, I have this much time left in the day. I'm situated here. I have these things to do and just do the next thing and try to yeah, and it just worked. I mean, I just was like calm and fine after that. Like I still had some of the re- excuse me. I still had some of the residuals of that thinking, but very little and not long. And yeah, I just kind of went on and didn't have a bad day or a bad hour at all. Yeah. Yeah, I think that well-being therapy is very very useful. But going back to the topic of yeah, of us basically getting dumber from smartphones, us getting more maladroit from our technology, from us losing the machines in our body by using machines, by employing machines outside our body. You have more thoughts about this? I mean, he talks also, yeah, how science should be taught very slowly to people. Now, of course, this is also philosophy, so it's not necessarily directly applicable. But basically, yeah, he has his student, his ideal student, like learn, yeah, learn science slowly by sort of making his own instruments. And just the point is that just yeah, you should keep the whole person kind of connected to all their senses and to their rationality. You don't want to start substituting for their discovery and understanding and developing judgment. You don't want to start substituting for that books and instruments and things, you know.
I don't know, just I had thoughts of like just finding ways to rely less on the smartphone, like in general, that I can do, and they're kind of small, but it's one less thing I have that attaches myself to me on there. Um, so like I say that could help. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I tried Cal Newport's suggestion, and of course he's very focused on productivity, but I think also the good life
Mm,
and get everything sort of interesting off your phone.
mm,
I never put social media on there, but I did have YouTube on there a long time, and
mm,
you know how much YouTube has like sucked from my life.
mm.
But yeah, I finally bit the bullet and took off YouTube. It was a little
Yeah.
hard, But
Yeah. Yeah, like I still have that on there, but I think I don't use it as much on the phone at least.
mm,
So,
yeah. Yeah, on a podcast I was watching recently, Andrew Huberman Lab and Stuart McGill, was that the person? It was a sprinting coach, like a world-class sprinting coach. And they were just talking about how much time people waste by like looking at their phones, like and
mm,
you don't get that time back, you know. Okay, yeah. So maybe later on we'll talk about just how we refine our sort of uh physical and mental tools. One interesting thing we didn't talk about is the mental tools, the psychotechnologies and things, um, psychological technologies. John Vervaeke talks a lot about these, like how, like writing supposedly was an invention that helped people to learn to reflect eventually by seeing their thoughts like later on about them. They started they can kind of see themselves more objectively and start to maybe see more clearly how they can deceive themselves just like others can deceive you. You can deceive yourself, or you can be deceptive. You can, you know, start reflecting on things more, and other psychotechnologies. But yeah, I don't know if you've reflected on this, but
mhm.
yeah, do you have this idea? I mean, obviously, in philosophy, there's a lot of, you know, like the meditations that we've talked about with the um, Stoicism, or the like in different religions, like in Christianity, there's the figure of Christ, which obviously is many things, but for one serves as kind of this uber model of who to be like, you know, that's inspiring, that's guiding. And he said a lot of like deep sorts of, you know, paradoxical almost kinds of things for you to kind of meditate on, you know, to help guide you. But well, yeah, before we go, what do you think of any of these kinds of mental things that can help you or that do
Oh,
help you?
well, like I just kind of had this general thought that a lot of those things that you mentioned are like about really engaging the senses in general and mind. Um, so like with the paradoxes, of course, those are going to get people thinking,
Right,
using
as
their mind
opposed to
more.
like a simple kind
Yeah,
of maxim or something. Although a
yeah,
maxim can also, it can be something that reverberates in your head. But
yeah,
anyway, yeah, it's not it's different anyway, right?
yeah. And of course, with meditation, it's about being in touch with the moment, with the senses, and whatever thoughts you might be having. So I think a lot of these things are kind of maybe help counterbalance with what technology has been doing to us.
Which
So
is the
it's they're
less
like,
engagement,
yeah,
which is funny because the industry uses that word to try to measure how
yeah,
much we're like in focused on it. But yeah, it's a different type of engagement. You're talking about more active
yeah,
as opposed
yeah,
to like kind of passively watching videos or playing
yeah,
games or something.
yeah. Yeah, so I kind of view those as like the counterbalances to like the what technology is tends to do at as it is now to
Mm,
like the our senses. So yeah, I think
mm,
they're kind of a good way to kind of keep those healthy and in check
mm.
with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that a lot of the best way to health too and to longevity is to stay active? I
Mm.
sometimes wonder if having recorded music is generally better or worse because, you know, before maybe we had to like play music to hear music. And that's of course much more active and of course good for your
Yeah.
emotion regulation and probably many other things.
Yeah.
Anything else that that kind of helps you? Is there a maxim that you live by, or like a paradox that you turn over in your head? I know we do. I think these Grimm brothers stories and other, mythological and other stories, I
Mhm.
think internalizing kind of is good for people. I don't know. Seems good for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's very basic and simple, but what helps me feel better is just I kind of tell myself to uh, kind of enjoy the moment or be in the moment, and that kind of helps bring me back. So I
Mm.
think I've said this before, like the most common thing I do is when I go outside is I just like to um, feel the nature, like the wind or the leaves
Yeah.
moving and moving in the trees and things like that. And
Yeah.
that does help me feel better in the moment. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the opposite of self-conscious. Like you're
yeah,
pretty much a part of the whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I think wind
yes,
helps because it's like engaging your sense of touch and you know,
yeah, and like
less just the eyes,
mm,
maybe.
yeah, and just like feeling the sun or lack of sun or whatever. Just yeah, it's very simple and well known, but it helps me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me, I think I told you I heard Jordan Peterson say that there is no difference between self-consciousness and experiencing negative emotion. And yeah. Yeah, I think times of great joy, flow and all that, yeah, you're not conscious. Yeah, I mean you're not self-conscious.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the more blunt version of what I'm saying is just touch grass.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that we'll leave it and we'll continue with talking about how we're kind of using our senses and using our whole person to live, hopefully. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.